Good evening, everybody. Here we are in October, recording this October 2023 at the start of the month. And October is known as Menopause Awareness Month. So if you're watching this live or during October, you'll be seeing a lot of information coming out around menopause and menopause awareness. But of course, my focus is on how we can optimize our health at any stage in our life and for whatever conditions we have. Not that I think menopause should be called a condition and medicalized as such. It's a natural stage in our life journey. I know I've been there. I'm past that stage now, post-menopausal, menopausal, whatever you want to call it. But what I want to highlight tonight is putting a spotlight on the things that we can do to make this transition through the perimenopause and the menopause just so much easier. And as you know, I specialize in gut health, and I want to talk tonight about the importance of gut health and specifically the microbiome for helping to make this transition through the menopause so much easier. I'm not saying that menopause alone completely solves any menopausal symptoms you've got. As a naturopath, you've got to look at everything in balance. You need to look at everything holistically. You can't just focus on one thing. But if this one thing, in this instance, the gut, is not healthy, it's not in balance, it's really going to make things so much difficult for you. So what on earth am I talking about tonight? Well, let's just start by doing a really quick recap on the gut microbiome. What is it? It's these trillions of microorganisms, predominantly bacteria. There could be yeast, there could be virus, there could even be parasites now. We now know that certain parasites are considered to be helpful to the overall gut microbiome. So collectively, if you've got a microbiome of these trillions of bacteria that's all in balance, providing predominantly the good, healthy ones, that is going to contribute to you as the host to your health and keep you healthy in all sense of the word, including through the menopause. However, as we know, the microbiome can get completely out of balance. It can give rise to a lot of pathogenic different strains of bacteria and yeasts and viruses and parasites, etc. And when things start to get out of balance, a term we call dysbiosis, that's when problems start to occur in different areas of our health, including the menopause. Now, with regards to the menopause, there is a group, almost like a subset of bacteria that is called the estrobilome. So that's sort of shortened really for the estrogen and the microbiome, known as the estrobilome. What we now know a certain amount about with regards to these bacteria is that they help to modulate levels of circulating estrogen, stop it from being too high or too low at different stages of your life journey as a woman. So this is specifically targeted for women, not for men. Now, the estrobilome, what it does, and just a little bit of science, and I'll try and explain this as simply as I can. We have circulating estrogen. Estrogen eventually needs to be broken down. It goes to the liver, it's metabolized, it helps to be sort of broken down and therefore excreted from the body. It's attached to something called bile. You'll be aware of bile that goes through the gallbladder. Bile has different functions, but in this sense, it helps to take toxicity. In this case, used up estrogen, older estrogen, it comes out through the gut in bile, and eventually it sort of joins up with the stools and is excreted from the body. However, a certain amount of that estrogen is separated away from the bile. It's a term we call deconjugation. Conjugated is joined. It's taken away from bile, it's deconjugated. It finds its way back into the bloodstream. Now, this is done with a certain enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, but this enzyme is found in certain types of bacteria, hence the estrobilome. And when things are in balance and healthy, it'll only sort of deconjugate a certain amount of estrogen so it's reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, the amount that is really needed, and the rest is excreted from the body. Very, very clever. We know that when there's a situation that we call estrogen dominance, what it can partly be a result of is too much of this enzyme, too much of these bacteria, pulling apart, deconjugating the estrogen from the bile, allowing too much to be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. So when you're premenopause, there could be too much of this estrogen. Could be one of the reasons for things like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. But tonight we're talking about the role through the menopause. So on the other hand, through the menopause, when we're looking to have more estrogen, we may end up with a situation that not enough is being deconjugated, not enough is available to be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream when estrogen is at its lowest levels. And it could be one of the reasons, we think it is one of the reasons, why you could get worse menopausal symptoms. Something that's also come to light is, it's almost like a chicken and egg situation, is that we now know that the microbiome composition, the makeup of the different types of bacteria, is very different in the perimenopause to the postmenopause. Postmenopause, the microbiome makeup is considered to be more similar in a woman to a man's. It's considered that the estrogen levels are contributing to the makeup and what it looks like, the bacteria in the gut. So you've got a chicken and egg situation. Declining estrogen affects the microbiome. A different makeup of the microbiome may be making it more difficult for the estrogen to be reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, hence this chicken and egg situation that starts to appear. One other factor we know about estrogen and progesterone is it helps to keep the gut mucosal barrier, this lining, intact, and helps to prevent something we call intestinal permeability that can happen for certain people. And when that happens, when it starts to become leaky, you can start to get toxicity from the gut passing back into the bloodstream, contributing to symptoms, inflammation, etc. Lots of other things going on. Some of the things that may be apparent in menopausal women, we tend to put everything these days, I find, down to menopause. May not be anything to do with the menopause at all. So having said that, and having given you the overview of the role of the gut microbiome, and its potential role in its contribution to menopausal symptoms, is what can we do about it? Well, first and foremost, thinking about the estrobiome and estrogen is cruciferous vegetables, predominantly, specifically broccoli, has a very important role in helping to modulate estrogen with certain compounds through the gut. So eating cruciferous vegetables anyway is going to be particularly helpful at this time. We obviously want to keep fiber intake up. We want a very diverse range of plant-based foods so that we're getting plenty of soluble and insoluble fiber, because collectively they help to keep our bowel movements regular. They help to keep the stools formed but soft, helping to cleanse the walls of the colon of toxicity, helping to get that toxicity out of the body. The more toxicity we can get out of the body, the less that in turn could end up contributing to symptoms related to the menopause. So we want to get toxicity out of the body. Otherwise it goes back to the liver, and the liver is our key organ for metabolizing estrogen. So let's keep the load off the liver. So let's keep bowel movements regular, toxicity flowing through and eliminated from the body in a timely manner. So we need plenty of plant-based foods that's soluble in insoluble fiber. Now we also need plant-based foods for its prebiotic capabilities. Prebiotics are plant foods that feed good bacteria. Different to a probiotic, we're talking about prebiotics. There are certain strains of fiber that feed the gut microbiome, the beneficial bacteria. We need to keep feeding them, we need to grow them. So you get foods like onions and garlic and artichoke and bananas. Different foods have different prebiotic properties. You get others that have compounds called polyphenols, and in their own way, they are also acting as prebiotics. And we find particularly polyphenols very rich in our berries, all different, those different colored berries, in pomegranate and in apple. We need plenty of prebiotic fibers. We need plenty of soluble and insoluble fiber. So this plant-based community, we need to eat plenty of it, and lots of diverse ones every single day. And then we can come to things like fermented foods, whether it's kimchi, kombucha, which is a drink, kefir, sauerkraut. These fermented foods are very rich in bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, and these help to provide the actual bacteria that we need to support levels of those in the gut. So having a little bit of those every single day can also be really, really beneficial. But if you're thinking about also beyond the estrobolome, just how can you support your own estrogen levels when you're going through the menopause, as our levels from the ovaries are continually declining, then we need to think about phytoestrogen rich foods. Phytoestrogens means plant-based estrogen. It's not the same estrogen in our natural hormones, but what they are compounds that mimic our estrogen. When they mimic our estrogen, they lock on to those receptors where estrogen would naturally lock onto, like in breast tissue, for example, in a healthy way, and provide a very weak estrogenic effect in the body. We need to be focusing on plenty of phytoestrogen rich foods. We know things like soya, and particularly fermented foods like tempeh are really helpful. Sesame seeds, chickpeas, hummus, lentils, celery, oats, edamame beans, flaxseed, and cruciferous vegetables, again, are all very, very good phytoestrogen rich foods. So we need to be really, really focusing on just how much of these different ones you can get into your diet every single day to really just support your natural estrogen levels as much as you can. You want to try and give a boost to it as your own natural levels are declining. But really give your focus on your gut. Never, ever, ever overlook what's going on in your gut. It is so important to every aspect of your health. And I'm highlighting tonight, as it's Menopause Awareness Month, you really cannot overlook it if you want to sail through the menopause more naturally. So thank you for watching, or thank you for listening if you're catching up with this on my podcast. And I look forward to following up more next week, on more tips around menopause the whole of October 2023. Have a great week, everyone.